Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at the feature race at Woodbine on Sunday. Race number 7 is the Grade 3 Valedictory. We're going to take a look at this race, at this entry card. Mile and a half on the synthetic surface, gigantic field. It's a good betting race. This race likely comes down to distance. Millie Girl surprised me when she even stretched out of a sprint. She surprised me a little bit more last time out when she stretched out to a mile and a quarter, and the connections love it. They want more distance and boys.
I don't know. I mean, hey, if it's working, and don't try to break things or fix things here. It's working so far. Let her do her thing, and I think she's been very impressive in her last several. But I like that you point this out, Dan. It's a mile and a half race on the synthetic. When we look at other parts of, say, North America, mile and a half, mile and 5/8 races, mile and 3/4, you don't get anywhere near 14 runners. And I think there's several in here that maybe distance is going to be key for them, where they've been very close in their last several, just haven't been able to do it. They're going to stretch back out, and they're going to have to stretch out a lot for some of them. But I think this is a really great race. It's one that I look forward to every year.
I agree with Timeform US. I think the horse they're all going to have to catch is the 4, So High. And I'm not sure that So High is going to have to go very, very fast at a mile and a half. I have a feeling that these connections are going to use the same tactics they tried in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, where they opened up 20 on the backstretch and still ran third to some nice horses.
You stole my thunder. I think they're going to go. And sometimes with these sorts of marathon races, that actually can work if you're able to open up a sizable advantage early on, but you have to be able to control the fractions. And this one is coming out of a mile and eighth event, a third place finish. We'll see what this one can do returning to a mile and a half.
A horse hoping that Timeform is correct and that this pace is fast is the Deep Closer, the #1 Pride of Distinction. Well, distance is no object for this veteran. Let's watch his most recent start. He was in for a $40,000 starter claiming option, but this race is at a mile and 3/4, and he's as fresh as a daisy in the stretch.
I just wonder, though, is a mile and 3/4 what he needs, Dan? Look at his win this year and look at his win last year. It's a mile and 3/4. He's not going that far. He's going a mile and a half. He has to get back on the synthetic. And the one thing I will say, 1 for 27 in terms of wins. Maybe he's a minor player here. You can see his running style. We see it in this race. He picks up the pieces late, and that's how he gets the job done. And I wonder if, once again, that's what he's going to need. I just wonder if a mile and a half is a little short.
The #2 Conglomerate, I thought, was a little bit dirtied up coming into his last race because he just looks like a true synthetic sort that had been racing on turf. He got back on the synth last time out, and he made hay in a $50,000 optional claiming event. And Conglomerate's going to squeeze his way through in between horses. And once he sees daylight, he sets sails after the loose leader and finishes strong.
You know, Mark Casse claims this one for 50,000 earlier this year. He likes it over the synthetic up at Woodbine. He's really taken to the Tapeta, and it was nice to see just a couple of starts after the claim. They got him in a spot where he's able to boost his confidence, get the win. And to me, I know a mile and a half's a little unknown, but I think his last effort, I think they saw something they liked to stretch him out.
By the long-winded Belmont Stakes winner Lemon Drop Kid, I have a feeling maybe he can handle the mile and a half. Jim's Hope is up next, stretching out off of a victory last time out against restricted competition. Let's watch Jim's Hope scoring at a mile and a 16th. He grabs the lead turning into the stretch and doesn't let go. Now he's going to have to improve from a speed figure standpoint, and he's going to have to do it at a very questionable distance, but he's in good form.
He is in good form. And I think something to note here, Emma Jane riding for Paul Buttigieg. You know, this is a combination that when they team up, I think they do fairly well. Maybe they fly a little bit under the radar. They've had some stakes winners earlier this season, and Emma Jane's returning to riding just a few days before this race will take place. And I think in terms of trip, Jim's Hope, I think, will be maybe in that first flight of 3 or 4 runners out of the gate.
So High is the #4. Now, this horse hasn't raced on synthetic since his third lifetime start, which was overseas. It was a mile and a half race, and he won. So maybe he's going to appreciate getting back to the all-weather off a third-place effort. This is the race Ashley was talking about earlier. They shortened this guy up to a mile and an eighth. He settled off of the pace. He makes a strong run into the stretch. He's going to finish third as the favorite, but I just think he's more effective when he's able to utilize his speed in these longer distance races.
I agree. I think that's his best chances at success is to be forward, going a mile and a half here up at Woodbine, and to kind of take control early and see if he can remain in front in the end. He's another one, you look at him, he's 0 for 11 this year. That's a little bit of a tough sell, but knowing that it looks like on paper, if he wants the lead, he can have it. Maybe that's a little bit of, enticement to use him somewhere.
The number 5, Luckman's bred, I think, to handle this distance. Another one by a Belmont Stakes winner, Empire Maker. He ran an okay third at big odds last time out in the autumn. I thought maybe he kind of had a bit of a stressful trip. It was one of his better performances in a while. His race 3 starts back on turf was okay, but he needed to show it on synthetic, and I still think he does.
I think he does too. I do think, though, even though you get down the page and you look at his mile in an eighth race with the Ontario Derby, he didn't fare too well. His races suggest to me, because of his running style, maybe it is distance. Maybe it's just too far back. It doesn't matter the distance, and he can't get a bigger share. But some of his races, his late closing kick, I would think that maybe he can handle a little bit of additional ground. But this is a lot of ground coming out of that mile in the 16th event.
The 6 War Court gave an even performance in his stakes debut. That was the Durham Cup last time out. He's very consistent from a Beyer speed figure standpoint. He's lightly raced enough that I think we can project a little bit of improvement. He may need to improve a lot, though, against this tough field.
He might have to, and you can see the connections deciding to take a chance here to get him in another stakes event. I respect that. I think last time out, though, he needed to show more. Or Artie Storm and Algiers, they were very, impressive in those races. Algiers, though, took a lot of respect and wasn't able to beat Artie Storm, who I believe was Paul Buttigieg and Emma Jane, Dan, which I talked about earlier. But prior to this, had 3 solid efforts in 2023. And Lane Gilliforti, we've talked about him in a couple of these videos. He's had a tremendous year. I think he is spotting his horses quite well. I mean, looking at his numbers, he's almost 50% of the time he's first or second.
The number 7, Rapper Zapper, is a true one-run closer. He's usually dependent on race and pace luck. He's usually can be depended on to give a strong late kick. Often, though, in horses that close in sprints or middle distances, sometimes they're not able to sustain that kick going longer. So to me, the distance is still a question for this guy.
I mean, I agree. I think the big thing with Rapper Zapper is similar to the other horse that we talked about just a couple ago, is that you wonder if the added distance works against them or is going to help them. And maybe it doesn't help him. You look at him, he's able to win 2 starts back at a mile and a 16th. It's just interesting to see. He's been at a mile and a 16th repetitively. He has a good race and a bad race. And now they're going to shake things up. And hopefully he's going to look to get his 3rd win of the year. But I think this is a tough spot to do so, knowing that he graduated earlier this year, Dan.
The 8 Win for the Money looks like a strong contender for Marcassi Live Oak Plantation. This is a horse I think Cassie likes a lot because he won 2 in a row and they immediately threw him into the Arlington Million, where he was facing some tough turf horses. He rebounded off that even performance with a good effort in the Grade 2 Autumn last time out, going a mile and a 16th. The horse on the lead, Wolfie's Dynaghost, has a lot of quality, especially when he's able to make the front. Win for the Money tries hard to hold second.
He didn't embarrass himself by any means in the Arlington Million. I think all in all, I think he raced better than expected. Yes, it was even, but it was better than expected. I think in the autumn, as we're showing, it was a really nice performance from him. And just looking at his braces down the page, some of his Beyer speed figures, say at Turfway Park, weren't the strongest, but he really has taken to the synthetic. And I think him stretching out to a mile and a half based on his running style, he's tactical enough that he could be forward. And I think this is a distance that could work actually in his favor.
A 7-time winner, 77 Stone, is taking a giant step up in class and distance, stretching out 6 furlongs. Nothing in the recent form makes me think 77 Stone is a strong contender in this race, but we've seen crazier things on the track.
We have. He won 1 race in 2022. He was second in a 2-mile and 70-yard event, Dan, at Fort Erie, the Tour de Fort. And since then, he really hasn't shown up. And to me, he's a really tough sell here. His Beyers are not competitive. He's coming out of some soft spots. And I think they're putting him in here just because he has had a race or two at a really long distance that's worked out for him.
The 10 Collective Force was 3rd in this race back in 2021, and I wonder if he's sort of racing himself back into shape. This will be his 4th start off of a lengthy layoff. He's another horse that doesn't have a lot of early speed, but he will kick on at the end, and I think they've been prepping him for the stretch out. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this pace is fast. He can liven up your superfectas.
Okay, go back to December of 2021 when you see that 3rd place finish. There's a name we haven't talked about in a while. Sir Winston ends up being the winner of that race. And to see him after that, it took him a while to get back into shape. We really didn't see him kind of blossom until the summer of 2022. He's been lightly raced in 2023, but I completely agree with you. I think he's gotten better with his starts, and I don't mind him stretching back out to a distance where not only does he have experience, but he at least has one really nice effort going a mile and a half.
Millie Girl, the number 11. I remember when we did the Ontario Matron preview, I said, I'm not sure about a mile and a 16th for Millie Girl. I really like her. I hope she doesn't prove to be a closing sprinter. Well, she aired that day, and then she showed me in the Maple Leaf scoring at a mile and a quarter, and she was much the best. She makes this
Absolutely.
5-wide swooping move, Ashley. Look how good she is in the stretch.
She is really good in this race, and I think she's really coming around as a 5-year-old mare. She's had a really consistent career throughout, but now it's been nice to see her show another dimension because this is a horse that you don't know if she wants to go that long, and every sort of test that has been thrown to her, she's been able to pass with flying colors. So I think coming off that performance, they have a lot of confidence, and rightfully so.
It's a mile and a half against the boys. It's also the end of the year. Take a chance and see
Mhm.
what you have with Millie Girl. Palazzi is up next, a very strong contender, a horse that ran in a tough edition of the Canadian International last time out, and also called Yielding Ground, that I'm not sure he liked. He ran really well 2 starts back to win the Singspiel and is a proven commodity over the synthetic surface.
He disappointed in his 4-year-old campaign. He was 0 for 6, just had that second place finish. And I know they tried some different things with him. They put him on, Kentucky. They've had him at Woodbine. They tried him on the dirt. But I think as a 5-year-old, he's had a really great campaign. They took a shot last time out because his form was so strong in those consecutive races. And we know Nation's Pride and World Champion were clear of everyone else. So I think all in all, it was still an okay 4th place finish. I'm hoping, though, that maybe you said it. Maybe it was the surface, maybe it was the moisture in the track, but maybe getting back onto the synthetic, he's 1 for 1. Maybe he can take a step forward.
Completing the field are the 2nd and 3rd place finishers from the 2020 Breeders' Stakes. We'll start with the number 13, Meyer, a horse that I think is a little bit better on the turf than synthetic, but we know he likes distance.
He does. My concern with him, and I've been on the losing side of this wager, I've endorsed him on top. He is a bad case of second-eye stand. You can see that just from his overall record. But this year, most recently at a mile and 3/4, 3 back at a mile and 3/8. I guess for him, he's not facing Ron's Gizmo, who's been kind of the better of him in several of those efforts. But he is stepping up. There's some horses here that come out of really salty events, but at least we know, as you've said, distance, not an issue.
English Conqueror on the other hoof might be a little bit better on synthetic than on turf, and maybe he's coming into this race a little bit dirtied up off a couple of turf races. He just missed in this race last year. He's 12 to 1 on the morning line. Post 14, he has a lot of time in a mile and a half race to work something out. I wouldn't be surprised if he outruns his odds.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Justin Stein has had a good week up at Woodbine with several winners, I believe, on the Thursday program. But the one thing I wonder about English Conqueror, can he be tactical? Could he be forwardly placed here? I think there is a good possibility of that. It's a little risky from post 14, but as you mentioned, there's plenty of time to get into a good position. And if for some reason he's keener, Leon, I would not be wouldn't be surprised to see him far off of it.
I love to see these big fields in these mile and a half races. We'll take a look at our top selections. You're going with Palazzi, and I could certainly see it. I think he's going to settle in mid-pack, make one run, and he just looks like he's gotten good this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I think looking at his 2023 campaign, I've been really impressed with him. I like that they took a shot with him last time out, and I think he's going to bounce back here, even though he is a little bit limited in experience on the synthetic.
Same exact, a different order. I'll go with my girl, Millie Girl, one more time, but I won't take a dime less than the morning line of 3 to 1 as she stretches out and takes on the boys. 12, 11, 13, 6 for Ashley, 11, 12, 8, 5 for me. Nice addition of the valedictory at Woodbine on Sunday. Good luck.